And welcome back to the show. Beer and minimum wage. It has set up quite a firestorm in the Capitol. Here with the Capitol Bureau Chief Chris Keating. I see your glasses here. I got to start putting things on, Keating, to make sure I can read this prompter right, because it's starting a little blurry.
I can see it. It says open.
I'm hoping to make sure this is no beer inside here. It's got a little blurry. So, what's going on? Big deal this week, right? Beer and minimum wage, quite a frenzy. Let's start with beer on Sunday. I didn't realize that Connecticut and Indiana were the only two states not to sell beer on Sunday?
Yeah, well, that's basically an across-the-board ban. All right, so the Indiana and Connecticut, it's kind of an across-the-board ban. There's a lot of hybrids. Some can sell wine. You can do this. You can do that. Right. The real number is more like 37 states where you can do whatever you want. Right. But anyway, the one across-the-board ban complete, yes, Connecticut and Indiana.
So how did the state pull that off? It's considered a moderate state. Some say liberal. How did such a state on the bubble like that have such a draconian, what some may say is draconian law?
Well, there's been tremendous lobbying by a guy named Carol Hughes, who has convinced the legislators, and year after year after year, under different governors, many different governors, this goes back to Rowland and even before, in which he basically said 7-day-a-week sales is not going to gain you anything because people will buy the same amount that they would have bought in 6 days. That has been the argument, and that's been a winning argument. Right. In other words, if somebody buys on Sunday, then they're not going to buy on Monday, or they're not going to buy on Saturday. So his argument, and again, it's been a winning argument, is that you're going to sell the same amount anyway.
Let's hear what he's saying now. Carol Hughes, take a look.
I don't believe that Connecticut ranks 49th in the consumption of beer. And I don't think you believe it either. Per capita. And I don't think you believe it either. What that is telling us is that we are losing large amounts of sales to New York, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts.
Our stores can't survive. There'll be 1,000 of them on the streets and out of their businesses, and it's not a fair way to do things.
So the question would be to challenge that. Why? Why would all these businesses be out of business by simply having Sunday beer sales? I've never quite got the argument that that would happen.
Well, it's, the bill is a lot more complicated than Sunday sales. There's a lot of things involving pricing. In Connecticut, there's a certain minimum price. You can't go below that minimum price. So that allows a nickel and dime package store with 2 employees to compete with Stop and Shop if they both sell the same beer for $5 a six-pack. I'm making up a number. Right. But you can't go below. So Stop and Shop, which has a lot of money, can't sell that beer for $2 a six-pack and drive the other guy out of business. But in this bill, they're talking about getting rid of the minimum pricing. Oh, okay. All right, they're talking about doing a whole bunch of things in
across
this
the
bill.
board.
Yes, a whole bunch of things that could be possible in the bill, and that's why they say that would drive the people out of business.
All right, so it's the amendments that's causing the problem, not the bill itself. It's the amendments attached to the bill that's causing the real problem.
Right. There's a whole series of complications. The liquor industry is incredibly regulated, heavily regulated, way more than any business that you could think of, even possibly more than tobacco. And there's a lot of things in the bill that would change the way the industry operates, and the package store owners, really, they're scared to death. They think their businesses are going to close.
The devil in the details,
right? Yeah, they're
right?
very scared.
Now, the proponents are saying, listen, it's about money. You'll increase sales, they say, $500 million, they claim, and bring in tax dollars, about $8.5 million in tax dollars. That's real money. That's going to get the attention of the governor. Those who dispute those numbers, what sort of, has anyone studied this and said, hey, here are the real hard, accurate numbers?
There have been, yes, there have been studies. Wow, there's been a lot of studies. Everybody's got a different number. The package stores have one number. The legislature's fiscal office has another. The numbers are all over the place, really is what it is. But one of the governor's main points is that, and it's possibly not disputed, people go across the border, both New York, Rhode Island and Massachusetts go over all 3 borders to buy booze, and they do it.
And buy it with no tax in Massachusetts. Someone says, I didn't realize that either. You can go to Massachusetts and buy it with no tax there. Yeah,
right? There's a huge incentive to go to Massachusetts. Huge incentive. And while you're up there, you get some gas for less money, too. You know?
So competitively, will make Connecticut more competitive if you're on the side of Sunday sales.
Yeah, the bottom line is there's a lot of money on the line for all these, the wholesalers, the retailers. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of lobbying firms working on this at the Capitol. The convenience stores want to sell beer too at a gasoline station. Pull into a gas station, you buy some beer, which you can't do now as long as they have pumps and they're selling gas. They want to get in on the act. So it's still very fluid right now.
So why does this issue have legs now? We mentioned Indiana and Connecticut historically across the board. Why now? Why the tables turned today?
The biggest reason is the governor wants Sunday sales.
So he's driving it.
He's driving it. That's the biggest reason. Governor Rell was basically. Yeah, there you go. Governor Rell was basically against it. So he had 6 years was basically against it. Rowland didn't really take a hard stance for it. But now you got the governor with a Democratic legislature and a Democratic governor,
right,
and a governor who generally gets what he wants from the Democratic legislature. That's what's pushing the pressure points, basically.
So end of the day, when will be D-Day for this when it becomes
well,
up or down?
There'll be an important, the committee vote will probably be in mid-March.
Right.
Mid-March will give you a little bit of the lay of the land, and then probably more like late April, early May.
It looks pretty good it's going to happen now, right?
Yeah, the Sunday sales part, a lot of people think that will happen, but these other parts of the bill that I talked to you about on the pricing, that's where the fight is.
All right, next fight. The minimum wage now, right now, $8.25 in Connecticut. Proposals are bringing it to $9 and $9.75 in 2013.
That's right.
Right. So what's the blowback there? I'm assuming that the business owners are saying, wait a second, it's going to bankrupt us. We're not ready. It's too much money.
Yeah, a lot of the businesses, CBIA is against it. They might not be fighting it every day, but CBIA is against it. The small independent businesses are against it. The governor has really taken a wait and see. He was asked again about it, and he said, I don't really know what I'm going to do.
Well, who's driving it? If he's taking a wait and see, who's driving this thing?
House Speaker Donovan, who's running for Congress. Who's running for Congress. But Donovan has been pushing minimum wage for probably 15, 20 years.
But at a time, Mr. Keating, when they have a big push now for business, couldn't that be perceived as anti-business to kind of force them to pay more money? Are they concerned about that?
Yes, and that may be why the governor's kind of laying low on this one. The governor has had many chances every time the press asks him. He's had many chances to say, yep, I'm totally for it. And he's never said that. He's never said that.
Now, the House Speaker may be hoping that he can push the agenda, not really win it, but he can tell his folks, listen, I tried, guys. It is sort of that kind of, is that strategically something he's trying to do, a guy who has ambitions for higher office?
Well, I think it would definitely pass in the House. The question would be in the Senate. The House has a pretty wide majority, and Donovan's the kingpin in the House. So I'd say there's no doubt it'll pass in the House, no doubt.
And you're the kingpin here when you show up. You're the kingpin. Got to run now. Chris Keating, Capitol Bureau Chief. When the show returns, folks, Hartford Courant UConn men's beat writer Dama Moore joined us, and we'll talk about Jim Calhoun. Is it time for him to leave? Will he be out of his way? Will he hang him up this year? We don't know. A lot of things going on. NCAA, bad season, his health issues. So we'll talk about the future of Jim Calhoun and whether or not he's ready to hang him up. Catch the show 24/7, ctnow.com/Stan. We're on Twitter and Facebook, too.